lovelies. This is Tamala Clover of Dear Tamala and Clover Geeks, and I'm here with Lori Gabriel, who's going to introduce themselves. I am worked in mental health and advocacy and also doing creative endeavors, and I am with my good friend and very talented co-host doing a new series called Trailblazers, where we are going to be going over people who have overcome adversities to inspire and encourage people in today's age.
Excellent. All right. So yes, my name is Lori Gabriel. I am a professional screenwriter and I direct short movies. And I also do script analysis. I chose today Mary Pickford because she is somebody that really inspires me. And she grew up in the 1900s. She was a silent era actress and did like two movies where she talked. So before I get into all that, I want to let everyone know why adversity is so important. Adversity is just the ability to overcome something difficult, and that, like change. And a lot of us have been affected by things out of our control that have caused us setbacks. Mary Pickford is one of those people that was able to like bounce back and keep going. Mary Pickford was born in a working class family. She grew up poor, lived in a small house with her family. When she was 3 years old, her father left, and he was an alcoholic and abusive. This dove the family back into even more poverty. And as a young child, she also suffered from bouts of tuberculosis, diphtheria, and also pneumonia. So she had it rough. The local authorities got involved and quarantined the entire family. So it was a public health measure. So she really suffered a lot as a young child. And then when she was 6 years old, her father passed away due to a blood clot that he got when he was at his job. And he died from a cerebral hemorrhage. Her mother was completely devastated and grief-stricken. She couldn't cope. And this dove the family right into extreme poverty. And then, Mary also had a younger sister named Lottie. So it wasn't just her and her mom. Mary's mother, Charlotte, was just not able to really go out and get a job at this point. But there was a silver lining. Her family was so poor that her mom decided that she should rent out rooms in their small house to complete strangers. And one of these people was a playwright. He and Lottie and Mary became acquainted. And he suggested to Mary that she and her sister try out for small parts in his play. Her mom even became an organ player for this play. This kind of sparked her interest in theater, and eventually it led to a very big film career. Before long, she caught the eye of famed director D.W. Griffith, who is a very controversial figure. He did the movie A Birth of a Nation, which is a very racist movie with the Ku Klux Klan, and this was in 1915. He offered her a contract, which she signed. She became a film actress. At the age of 19, she worked harder than any other actress of her age, which is phenomenal. At such a young age to be like the breadwinner of her entire family. Everybody, her mom and her sister, relied on her for money. Which is completely, I don't even know how like somebody that age is capable of having that kind of responsibility. So she ended up doing 51 films in the year 1909. She was doing one movie every single week. She would take any kind of role that was offered, bit roles, leading roles, anything. And she eventually became so good at it, she became a very successful actress. Her mentor, D.W. Griffith, he decided he wanted her to level up on her acting skills. And so he had a male actor work on love scenes together with her. And this shook her up, because this is something that she was very naive and innocent and not experienced in this whatsoever. And also she had a crush on this guy. So it made it very challenging for her, but she was a good sport about it. And she knew that She needed to do this to continue to being the breadwinner and because she loved doing films. So this led to this young man being a lead in one of her movies. So the two got to know each other, and eventually he became her love interest in real life. So they became a couple. He, unfortunately, was somebody that was a lot like her father, alcoholic and abusive. And he was also jealous of her fame and success, which he didn't keep hidden from anybody. He had assault charges. He ended up in jail for. He beat an assistant up because he was jealous of the attention he was giving to Mary. And her mother despised him, and so did the director. So it was very well known what kind of character he had. The two of them got married, and she ended up. I do want to backtrack a little bit. So this part about forced to do love scenes, practice them so that she could get better at doing them on screen. It just really triggered me because it feels very much like the director was not thinking of her best interest. It was a very misogynist type of environment to have a young actress forced into that kind of situation. It should have been her choice. And this reminds me a lot of the misogyny I endured when I went to film school. When I first started, there were 30 people and only 8 of us were women. As time went on, it trickled down to I think 15 students and 4 women. But at the very beginning, it was very toxic. The males had big chips on their shoulders, and they had a lot of big egos. They thought of themselves as hot shit. Excuse my language there, and women were not considered equals. We weren't as important as the men. I don't know the whole reason for this, but what I observed is that because women tended to not be as good as learning new tech, like learning how to operate a camera, learning what a whiteboard is and white balance and all that, we weren't seen as capable as the men thought of themselves as. So we got harassed a lot and not treated well. Even one lady who was considered one of the guys, when she left the editing room, the men were talking really negatively about her. So none of the women escaped this. We even had one female student go to the co-founder of the school and tell them all this. He talked to the class and said this is no longer acceptable. And it stopped for a couple weeks, but then returned. So it was just not a very uplifting experience to have to go through that. And that's kind of indicative of some of the things that women do experience when they're in a male dominated industry like the film industry. And I'm not just talking about a crew, I'm also talking about actors and actresses like Mary Pickford. I'm pretty sure she had to endure a lot of stuff that still goes on today, unfortunately. That really triggered me. So anyway, going back to Mary Pickford, she went on set one day and ended up almost drowning. And this also shook her up. And she decided that she was going to make some changes in her life. So she ended up getting separated from Owen Moore, the young actor that she had to ended up marrying. So this project she was on, where she almost drowned, that was not a film that D.W. Griffith directed. It was another production company. So she had left him for a while. But because of that incident, she ended up going back to him because he treated her well and also his films were good. And this led her to become a very good actress and successful at it. Her wit and her charm, her charisma drew audiences to her, and she became successful and ended up leveraging her success to earn more money for film projects.
She's so inspiring to me. There's a lot of similarities between her upbringing and my upbringing, seeing how her family fell in one position, but mine kind of from my grandma went down to working class from middle class to extreme poverty with my mom. And that's kind of where I was raised, and I dealt with childhood illnesses, from bad, poor living conditions. Had a father who was a good father figure, but very young, passed away, and my mom could not cope. And my mom did not handle grief well, kind of her mother. And so, I understand, in a lot of ways, and I think you do too, how hard it can be to get over some of these early childhood things. That D.W. Griffith was somebody she kept going back to, and was pretty good. And like she even recounts that, but it's known that he at least beat her, like actually beat her, like at least once, and that's just on the record. And so like I think it goes to highlight that when women have very few rights, because she was like starting her career out before women even had the right to vote. When women have very few rights and opportunities, a little bit of that today happening. Actresses saying that they want to have coaches on set, and like there's some pushback against that, but want coaches to help navigate those kind of scenes and whatnot so that they feel more comfortable.
I would just, she did accomplish a lot. And, Tama's going to go over a little bit about some of those things. I chose her because of her resiliency, that she kept bouncing back and kept going. And because, maybe she didn't have a strong support system, because in those times, women don't necessarily are considered independent thinkers and doers. So she had to like be somebody who was brave and courageous and recognize that, success is there for her, but she's going to have to put in the hard work, and she's going to have to like endure quite a lot of horrific things to get there. So it's just very inspiring to know that like even in her setbacks, she was able to bounce back and keep going forward. There are actors out there that probably have come from nothing and then rose to fame. And I think that that's inspiring because we all have that ability. That's what I feel. So,
Yeah, I think that one of the new fields that is emerging is online. And I think that's an avenue that allows the public to decide who they want to see. And like it's maybe not the traditional way, but I kind of like that, like we're on YouTube right now. But I agree. And it's not just in the industry that you're a part of, it's in like I've been a part of like the mental health and also advocacy fields. And like there's a lot of fields for even like fields that you don't even think of, like retail or like things like that. It's like, how do you get that next promotion, like on a very small level? Like it's oftentimes about who you know and not what you're capable of. And like I feel like that's probably why people are going back to unions, because we want better representation and more opportunities. She was one of the first actresses to like be my name. Mary Pickford, just absolutely amazing. And like Lori, you were saying, she was considered America's sweetheart. People were rooting for her despite like some controversies and scandals, some of which probably shouldn't have been scandals. Like her cut in her hair at one point was a big deal. Actually, in some ways, maybe even a bigger deal than her having, let's call it an affair, but a romance with a married man, Douglas Fairbanks, who she would go on to marry. He was really quite obsessed and taken with her. She wasn't as naive as people thought to the public. That was her persona that she put on that made her like endearing, that made people want to root for her. But she was known off camera as being intelligent, like incredibly intelligent, even at a young age. Ended up to go on to make 194 films. Again, like a large portion of that was like almost a quarter of it was in that 1 year where she was doing one a week. And then as she advanced her career, she was able to do like pick her projects that she wanted to work on. One of the first things she formed was a production company with the actors Douglas Fairbanks, who was her second husband, and Charles Chaplin, who, for those who don't know, is one of the most well-known silent film actors. And then the very, not even questionable, like just like not, we don't, I'm going to say, I don't like him. D.W. Griffith, like there's just no excuse for the things that he did. He was willing to work with her, and the four of them together formed this United Artists Company, which in many ways was like one of the first indie film companies. And at the time, it was kind of controversial. Everybody was thinking, this is not going to work. There's no way, like these people are crazy. But all four of them really wanted to have more say over their work and their creative endeavors, were willing to take that risk. And it was difficult in the first years. They also like helped other independent producers to create films and things. And so that was something that allowed them by the 1920s to be making about $1 million with their production company, which in today's terms would be about $18 million, which is really great. And she would go on to actually be one of the original founders of the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences, first vice president of the Motion Pictures Relief Fund, which is a fund at the time that was meant to help struggling actors make ends meet. She did the payroll pledge program, which was very innovative, where she got people to agree to give that made over $200 a week to give part of their money back to this fund to help other people so the industry could like continue to go on. We could have people who weren't doing as many multiple jobs, you know, to make ends meet and acting at the same time, so you could get better quality, I think, in the industry. Now, Lori's going to know a lot more about this than me because this is her domain, but that's the way it appears to me. She also was responsible for helping create the motion picture and television country house and hospital, which I believe there's a version of that still that offers medical services to actors, which is just really great. She was one of the first actors to go and encourage the audience to give back to people. So to be like, use her fame to get other people to also give. And I think part of that was because her and her second husband, Douglas Fairbanks, were known to be tossing lavish parties. They were very well liked within all the upper parts of society, as well as with the regular people. So it was, people say that no one will ever know how much she actually did for other people, because a lot of times the things that she did so like quietly. For me, it's really inspiring to see somebody who comes from like such a difficult background. When she made it, she also looked back and reached a hand back. I think that's what we should all be striving to do. She also gave back with her third husband by like adopting 2 children that she raised. After her 194th film, she did end up retiring from acting. She, like we talked about, did not like the talkies and decided to get out. She didn't want to repeat mistakes that like Charlie Chaplin did. She felt like he really struggled trying to make that transition, and it was really hard for him. And she had created this foundation for herself where she had other options that a lot of people didn't have at the time to go and do something else. And what she chose to do was focus on her foundations and also focus on being a producer. This is somebody who I can only imagine had to like look in creative ways to find their path. And I think finding people who are willing to work with you, hopefully better than the racist guy, but finding people who are willing to work with you, who believe in you, connecting with people. And a lot of her success is also her connecting with the audience. And I think that's so important too, like connecting with the people that support you and make your dreams possible. Seems smart to me.
So thank you, Tamla, for sharing all that information. I find the fact that she started this motion picture company so she and her colleagues could have more freedom to create and to pick and choose projects is very encouraging. You know, because she probably didn't have like somebody saying, here's $1 million, you go out and, you know, start your company. She had to use her own money, her own resources, and connect with people that also have that same passion. So she did that successfully. And it ended up being, you know, we know what the motion picture industry is today because of her. I really feel like her life is an example of what, not necessarily, I don't want to be an actress, but her life is like a blueprint for people to, you know, use as their own. But because of her tenacity and her interest and passion in film, she kept going. And I think for creative people, it's really important to remember that your passion for something, as long as you keep that going and you keep working, you keep practicing, and you don't allow a whole lot of distractions. Obviously, you can't like ignore, you know, your responsibilities or, you know, ignore the fact that you need money and all that. But if you keep that passion alive and you keep at it, and you'll get better and better. and using that as your goal instead of like, I need to make $1 million. I need to have 500 Oscars. You know, keeping the passion alive for what you do is going to make it so that you keep doing it and you're finding time to do it. And I think her hardworking attitude has a lot to do with the fact that she really loved what she did. And she wanted to still do it even after, talkies came out. And I mean, she only did a couple, but the fact that she went ahead and did them means that she really loves the film industry, to do something that, is very foreign and not something that she has had a lot of practice in. I think it really shows just how much passion she had for film. And I want to say that that is really inspiring to me, because as a filmmaker, there are times when it's really challenging to keep going. You have not only external factors, but you have imposter syndrome, where you don't feel like you're as good as anybody else, or you compare yourself to other people. But everybody has struggles. Everybody has things that prevent them from having their best day, whether that be your internal thoughts, whether it be external forces. It's going to happen. And really coming back to that place of like, this is what I love to do. I'm going to find time to do it. And I'm going to put all those negative thoughts, those self-doubt, the I'm not worthy, or whatever it is that you are experiencing, or I'm not as good, as talented as so-and-so, put that somewhere on a shelf and lock the key and keep it there until you have actually got some of what's in your head, what's in your feelings out on a page as a screenwriter, working at that and just honing your, like, focusing on the task at hand instead of all these emotional things that have an impact on on your motivation and your discipline. So it's, to me, Mary Pickford exemplifies that, because she was able to become successful by being hardworking, by being intelligent, by understanding what it means to be a creative and as well as a business person, and merging those two. And that's really, I think, not just in the film industry, but every industry, it's really important to understand what it is your job is and what potentials you have in that career, and also who is going to be supportive of you, and sticking with those people, and really being flexible in your thinking and feeling, and just not being so concerned about the end result. Focusing on what you can do in that moment to get yourself ahead and get yourself to the place that you want to be. And it's very challenging, because you want to get to that end result of hundreds of Oscars, hundreds of Emmys, whatever it is that your dream is. But Mary Pickford, to me, is somebody that she kept being a hard worker and without any guarantee of success. And that's my takeaway from her life, is that she was able to achieve her dreams.
And I'm going to say this probably a lot in our series, because to me, you very much remind me of Mary Pickford, in that you're one of the hardest working people I know. And it's one of the reasons why I'm so pleased to get to work with you. And fun fact, I really was trying to get an interview with Lori here when we decided to come up with this, but this works too, because I get to work with you, and that's such an honor. But I think I am not exactly in the same field as you. I'm doing similar things but different, and it's been inspiring for me. And she's inspiring, and there's qualities in you that are like her are inspiring. And I just want to leave everyone with the fact that, one, Mary Pickford does have an actual autobiography, which to me is another impressive thing, and it has an awesome name called Sunshine and Shadow. But I also want to leave with a quote, which I feel like embodies a lot of what I stand for, and I think you do as well. It's so inspiring to hear a quote like this that is just as relevant today as it was when it was uttered. If you have made mistakes, there is always another chance for you. You may have a fresh start any moment you choose. For this thing we call failure is not the falling down, but the staying down. And I think that sums up everything. We all make mistakes, but it's whether we choose to try again. That's what our story is, what we choose to do.
Very well said. Thank you everybody for sticking through the whole video and listening to both of us. We really appreciate you joining us on today's video. We're very appreciative of the fact that we get to do this. It's a really fun and inspiring way to get the message across of how certain people have been able to overcome adversity. My goal, and I feel like Tamla's goal, is to inspire you to also reach your dreams and to keep going and not allow failure to keep you down. So please join us for our next video. We will continue to do these, and we look forward to hearing your comments, hearing what you have to say, and if you have recommendations, we would love to hear them. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
This is Miss Pickford's home today, and we are here to present her with a special award voted by the Board of Governors to honor one of the Academy's founders. Douglas Fairbanks bought this estate in 1919 and gave it to his bride as a wedding gift. The press of the day called it Pickford, a name that identifies it to this day. And now, for the first time, cameras are bringing you up the driveway that has been traveled for over 50 years by kings and commoners, movie stars and prime ministers, sportsmen, scientists, musicians, artists, movie fans, all of them. Will Rogers once said that his biggest job as mayor of Beverly Hills was to direct tourists to Mary Pickford's house. Among those visitors were the King and Queen of Siam, Babe Ruth, the Duke and Duchess of Alba, the Crown Prince of Japan, Marconi, Einstein, Amelia Earhart, Charlie Chaplin, and Oscar himself. And here, they were entertained in the Regency dining room. The gold candelabra were the gifts of another guest, a lady who was to ballet, but Miss Pickford is to films, the immortal Pavlova. This is the classical portrait of Miss Pickford by the renowned Spanish artist Medina. The movie Wings, the first ever to win an Oscar, starred her husband of 39 years, Buddy Rogers.
Mary, I present this to you with great pride and with the love and admiration of the whole Academy.
That's wonderful. You made me very, very happy, and thank you.
Well, it's nice to see another, isn't it?
It certainly is.
He hasn't changed very much in all this time, has he?
Well, I hope not.
No, he hasn't. He hasn't. There have been a lot of him made, and a lot of marvelous actors and actresses have won him, and it's only proper that finally he's come back to you again.
Well, it's very nice to be able to thank them all, and especially you. Thank you.
And you, for all you've contributed to this great industry of ours.
I shall treasure it always.